We are actually live, and I would like to say this is the Marketing Smarties reboot of Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties. Obviously, we're no longer on a Saturday, and I'm kind of glad for that, but it is indeed Monday. We're starting off the week with a very, very cool event. And with me today, we're going to have Rosemarie Barnes, and she's going to help us discuss the concept of confidence. And so being confident is the concept of the start of the show. So let me share my screen real quick, and we'll give you actually a clear idea of what is going on. It's been about almost 6 months. And people will ask, well, gee, Roland, why were you off broadcasting for almost 6 months? Well, my wife had hip surgery and knee surgery, and we had to replace our HVAC unit and heating and cooling system. We repainted half our house inside. We reframed our front door and put a new screen on it. And we had to patch a water leak that caused damage in the downstairs area from our upstairs bathroom, which caused us to replace the piping and the fixtures in both our bathrooms because they were getting so old. Figured we might as well do them both. So we've been doing a lot of construction with all of this. And then on top of all this, my wife was recovering from both of her surgeries, and she got a new job. So she's breaking into a new job, doing very well. And that's another subject for another day. But here we are with Marketing Smarties on a Monday. Hi, my name is Roland, and I'm really happy to present to you today my partner in this presentation. Her name is Rosemarie Barnes. And Rosemarie, just come on board and just say hi. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Yeah.
Hello, Roland, and hello, everyone. It is such a thrill to be here on the inaugural session of the reboot. I'm wondering if we still need the music in the background. But besides that, and I love music. But you know, it's threatening my confidence. Of course, it's not.
I'm just out of practice.
It is such a treat. Like you, Roland, I absolutely believe that fundamentally the number one step toward being successful is to know yourself, and to know yourself is to believe in yourself, and to believe in yourself says, I have confidence in me. And I would love to talk about where you find confidence, how you get it, and how you keep it.
Well, don't forget those three things. I'm sure you won't. But before we go into that, I just updated on everybody on what my last 6 months was about. What was your last 6 months about? And bring us up to date on what you've been doing.
Well, it's been a flurry of activity, and I'm loving it. I've been speaking internationally and giving workshops. I've been doing a great deal of work lately with entrepreneurs who aren't necessarily young, but they're just starting out on their businesses. And if anything is going to shake your belief foundations, it's going to be starting your own business. What could possibly give you cause for more joy and more pain than becoming an entrepreneur? It will make you question everything you believe in. So I've been doing that. I've been doing a lot of workshops, and the most exciting thing is that I'm actually starting, or hoping to start, it's just in the stages of getting it created, an academy for learning to speak publicly if you're in business. So it's a whole program on everything from from creation to design, to structure, to delivery, to presentation, to taking the final bow, and then how to do the follow-up that follows. If you're in business, every word you say either makes you money or costs you money. So for goodness sake, quit shooting ourselves in our feet and get learning how to do it properly. So I'm so excited that I'm going to be launching those programs online and with weekly phone-in sessions for group and interaction and community and all of those wonderful things. And so can you tell, I'm just sort of buzzy about it.
It's wonderful. It's really great. And it's very parallel to something that I'm doing, because in the last year or two, I've been, of course, focusing almost all of my talent and development on live streaming and the aspects of that as they pertain to the internet marketing tripod of the website, YouTube video, and social media. And social media being a loosely structured term, but absolutely necessary. Now, the reason that I focus on the live streaming is I believe that everyone's going to be doing it in the coming years. And it's a slow adoption rate, mainly because people don't think they can do it. They don't have the confidence. But if they were able to merge into this and start communicating via video calling and expressing themselves and feeling like what they have to say is worth recording and sharing with the world, that is going to change their confidence. And so that's the one little place where I can help confidence.
You bet you can. Here's a saying that might get us started. And I just love it. It says, no one can give you confidence because confidence comes from your assessment of yourself. Only you can bestow your trust in your own abilities. Once you do this, you will radiate self-assurance.
Okay, I tell you what, keep that plaque handy because I'm actually going to ask you to repeat it for the audience in a little bit here. But before we go on, I'm going to say that the audience is blowing me away because there are people out there that I really call it lack of confidence in my people. I didn't expect them to show up, and they have.
Yay!
So let's by the way, I don't have my comment wrangler today. Tim is indisposed for the day and can't be with us. However, I do have the system working, and I'm seeing all the comments, and there's very little in the YouTube side, and everything's going off in the website. So that's exactly what I wanted. Wanted to say hi to Roland Fulsang. Thank you very much for showing up. And Stroke TV. This is Aaron Avila. He wants to know, whereabouts do you live?
I am on Vancouver Island on Canada's very west shore.
Okay, not so far. Let's see. Tell me if I'm right or wrong, if that's very much in a Pacific time zone.
Very much so.
So you're in line. You're probably very close to Roland Fulsang.
Yes, absolutely. Anyway, Roland and I know each other. Hi, Roland.
I'll be darned. I probably should have known this by now.
Yes, Roland and I have met before. We've chatted before and enjoyed each other's company. It's been lovely.
She's very, very cool people. And also we have Monica Schmidt in the audience. Thank you very much for showing up, Monica. I really appreciate you showing up. And Barbara Quick is in the audience, and I'm so glad she made it. Barbara is one of my favorite people in the world. I talk to her weekly almost, whenever I can. And we've gone through some stuff trying to get her websites working. And GoDaddy reported things going on with her websites and domains that I've never experienced in my 2 decades of building websites. So we got through that, and she's in the audience today. Also, Kathy Pop is in the audience, and I really appreciate you showing up. Great to see you, Kathy. So there's a lot of people out there, and I'm just kind of shocked. We just got started. We got over a dozen audience comments, And now we're going to give them a chance to ask you other questions, but we're going to pull back now and go back to your quote because the quote was great.
All righty then, here we go. It says, no one can give you confidence because confidence comes from your assessment of yourself. Only you can bestow your trust in your own abilities. Once you do this, you'll radiate self-assurance. What does that mean? No one can give you confidence. No one can look at you and say, you're fantastic, you're great, you have the soul of a giant, you're marvelous, go conquer the world, if you don't believe that yourself.
So here's the thing. I realize that no one can give you confidence. You have to discover the confidence. What is the key to confidence and self-discovery of that factor? What is the key? What do we have to look for?
Failure. Failure. You don't get confident by always being successful. You just get complacent. I've got this. Everything I'm golden. Every cloud has a silver lining for me. I don't have to solve any problems because nothing ever goes wrong. That's not confidence. Confidence comes from failing, or at least getting yourself into hot water and then finding your way out. Once you know that you can get yourself out of a pickle, there's the confidence. There's the courage. There's the spine that says, I can try, because if I fail, I always know that I'm strong enough to pull myself out of the tar pit.
So that's cool stuff. Now, somewhere along the line in my life, I decided that there was no such thing as failure. And it wasn't because I had to seriously avoid the term, or, I just, no, I can't fail. That wasn't it. In a lot of people's eyes, I failed at a lot of things. However, the way I look at it, like, I thought my life was over 3 or 4 times in my life, just thought, that's it. I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. That's as good as it gets. This is as bad as it gets. I see the end of my life. And I was so wrong every single time. So it wasn't that the end of my life was there or that I failed. It was that I did not see what I was going to see tomorrow. And therefore, the hope and endurance of what gets me living the next day or the week or the next years didn't come to me until I decided to keep on living. And after I did that a few times, I realized that, guess what, buddy? Life keeps on going, and it ain't as bad as you think it is. It isn't as bad. We make it up to be something really, really monstrous and challenging. However, I don't think it is. I really don't think it is.
I think it's all about mindset. Is one of the things. So the word failure is, of course, a terrible word. A terrible word. I prefer to think of it as a learning opportunity.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, when you say things like that, when you're talking to the hard-nosed, embittered people who go, yeah, it's just a failure, I'm a dud, you have to use those words to say, I'm talking to you. I have to. Here's the thing, a little soapbox moment for Rosemarie. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter what you do. It matters how it lands on other people. If I'm talking to you, I know that the word failure is not in your vocabulary. For you, it's a learning opportunity. For people that are really feeling down on their luck, you start talking to them about learning opportunities, and they are going to shut their ears. They are not going to be listening. There's the point. You have to talk to people in the same language that they understand. So where many people would get all upset about me using the word failure, others would say, oh, I want to hear about this. It depends who you're talking to. What I'm really talking about is taking an analytical moment to say, this didn't work the way I had hoped, wanted, expected, prayed for. What can I do next time to make it better?
Well, that is the whole thing. Is like, this is by Kathy Pop, and she brings up the old adage, failure is not an option. And if you're in the military, or if you're in some where they run their business like that, they used to use that term a lot. It's embedded in our thinking that, oh, no failure, no failure. And I've always looked at failure like that wasn't a failure, that was a redirect.
That's right.
It was an adjustment, and if I adjust and go on, I'm going to figure out how to do better.
Now, to be fair, to get it out of the esoteric and bring it back down to the world of reality, failure is an option. You can screw up. You can mess up so badly that new business that you started can cost you your house, your family, your relationships, and everything. You can call it whatever you like. I say, wow, that was a huge learning opportunity. But to someone who is sitting there in the rubble, they're not going to use language like that.
Right.
For them, failure is an option. So what's happened? Their self-esteem, their self-confidence is going down going down the drain. And the problem is finding that little spark within you that says, I made a mistake. It's okay. We can figure this out. What's the next move? I can't just live here. So words are powerful, especially to the people lacking confidence.
Right. So once again, I find myself on the threshold of this concept of what is the key? What is the key for people? I know that we've gone over this once, but there are people who do not feel it, do not have confidence, don't know what it feels like, don't know what they should be looking for, don't know the first step on pursuing it, to secure it, to grab on and say, okay, I'll do this, and this will bring me confidence. Now, if they just go about life, they're going to realize that they got more and more confident just by living life. But the self-speak in their minds is telling themselves that they are not confident.
And you know why they're not confident? They don't know what to be confident in. This is definitely not across the board. And I do not paint everybody with the same brush. But for your consideration, consider what happens if you don't know what you value. What happens if you don't know that you value curiosity? Is that to be curious, in my mind, is akin to being intelligent. Intelligence is akin to being alive. To be alive is to make mistakes and to revel in our successes. Without one, there can be no other. But if you don't realize from the outset that curiosity is somebody's value, if it's yours, that means that you are a success for feeding your curiosity. I want to go see, that's a pretty rock. I wonder what's underneath it. Let's turn it over. What can I see? What can I learn? You have just fed one of your values, and you have now satisfied yourself that you know what's under the rock. You have a new piece of information. You are feeding yourself and gaining wisdom along the way, which you can now share with other people. By the way, did you know that if you pick up a rock in the forest, you're going to find little beetles and bugs underneath? Well, if you hadn't picked up that rock in the first place, you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't have satisfied yourself, and you certainly can't share that understanding. Maybe yours isn't curiosity. Maybe one of your values is the old integrity, doing the right thing when nobody's looking. Many people value that. However, many people really don't. Their lives have been hard. Their lives have been that they've had to scratch to survive. For them, integrity may not have the same meaning. But without knowing that, you don't have a post to put your hat on. To know your values is to know yourself. And once you know yourself, then you can believe in yourself. So I believe very firmly that step one toward becoming a confident individual is to know who you are. And step one of doing that is to understand what you value in your life.
Very good. And I agree with you totally, because the way my life has been, it's always narrowed down to a very few basic things. And I used to give this talk when I was a disc jockey trainer for the Rubens and Black Angus restaurants. I had a group of like 40 DJs, and I was getting really fed up with them because they're a bunch of clowns, you know. The DJs for nightclubs are clowns. A lot of them are. And I wanted to weed them out. I wanted to get rid of the people who didn't belong there. And I gave this talk one day. It was about an hour and a half long, on the power of purpose. And the way I opened up is like, look, if you don't really want to be here, forget this meeting, forget this job, stand up and walk out of here, because we don't want you.
Mm-hmm. I think that's brilliant. Purpose, purpose is powerful. So many people, and particularly men, although women are catching up very, very quickly, define themselves by their purpose. They define themselves by what they do. For example, my husband is an engineer. It's not what he is, it's not what he does every day, day in and day out, but it's what he is. I am a teacher. Whether I'm actively teaching in the school system, whether I'm speaking, whether I'm giving workshops, fundamentally in my heart, I am a teacher. What does that mean? To decipher that is to know who I am. Purpose is very much a leader for building confidence. If your purpose is to be the best parent ever seen on this planet, it gives you a reason to get up. It gives you a reason to struggle through things that don't go as well as you wanted them to, and carry on, because you're still needing to fulfill your purpose.
There's a big term that we can add to this, and that is that when we're looking at life, we have to accept a lot of things. There's so much we can change and so much we can't, or conceivably, but we really have to accept things before we move on. And because sometimes those things are not all that pleasant. But what I've found is, if we do not accept them, and I don't mean agree with everything that happened or condone everything or endorse everything, but accepting them just allows them to be what they are, and we don't have to hold it down as baggage, keeping us from moving forward. Does that make sense?
It is like using your past history, past mistakes, past successes as a schoolroom, not a baseball bat.
There it is. There it is. And let's see. Lowell Ann mentioned something here. I wanted to bring this up, and I will share that. How it lands on other people. We are often way more critical of ourselves than others are. My discovery through constant practice. And I agree with you totally. Nobody can punish us as badly as we can punish ourselves. And sometimes we feel like, well, we deserve to be punished, and I accept the punishment. Instead of learning something and moving on and have it be part of our strength, we use it to basically
beat ourselves up.
That's exactly right.
It's absolutely true. The things I say to myself, I would never say to never mind a living thing, I would never say to a rock. I am the word stupid, idiot. How can you even breathe when you're so dumb? Blah, blah, blah. These kinds of things. Now I know that when I'm saying them to myself, that I am being deliberately dramatic, and I don't believe them. But how often do you something, whether you've authored it or not, how often do you hear something before it becomes true? How often does a parent have to say to a child, the Easter Bunny is coming, before the child absolutely knows beyond question that the Easter Bunny is coming? If we say to ourselves often enough, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I'm worthless, how many times do we need to hear it, even though we're the ones saying it? How often do we hear it before we absolutely know it's true? I could go on a whole rant here now about the school system and whatnot, about letting children just, and I'm going to just rile teachers like crazy here, but I am one. So there you go. How the original goal of this of this system of just let kids get everything down, doesn't matter how it's spelled, doesn't matter whether it works, just get their IDs down on paper. That's a brilliant idea. Unfortunately, curriculums are so packed and time is so short that there was never enough time to go back quickly and fix the spelling errors before they got permanent. Elephant is not spelled phonetically for individuals trying to spell it first time round. But how many times do you write it wrong before you've decided it's true? The brain doesn't know the difference between what's true and what we believe to be true. If we believe it, it will happen. Because we direct our purpose to those ends. We direct our destiny to those ends. We direct our lives to those ends because we know it to be true. So if we're saying to ourselves, I can't do that, that's too scary, consider public speaking. Right up where we're there with the fear of death. Huge. If we tell ourselves, I can't do this, I can't do this, I'm afraid, I'm afraid, I'm afraid. Well, my goodness, that becomes truth. The anxiety level makes it so high that and it reaches such proportions that you wouldn't dare get up on stage because now you know that you are incapable.
I kind of grew up on stage. From a very early age, my mom and dad stuck me in fashion shows. Before I knew what a fashion show was, I was on stage in I think sleepwear and robes and stuff, and I was doing these fashion shows. Like, what am I doing up here? How did I get here? And but I didn't know the difference. They just had me do it, and I was up there doing this.
That's right. You see, now you never had the problem now of building it up into a horrendous experience. For you, it's simply part of life.
Yeah.
But so that may, and for me as well, I've been on the stage doing one thing or another for most of my life. But then we have to realize that for others, this is being in media. Oh my goodness, having people listen to my words only, and they came to listen to my words and see me. How's that for putting yourself in a vulnerable position? It takes a tremendous amount of confidence, and if not confidence, at least experience. So you know what to expect.
You know, I have this theory, and maybe you can give me some feedback on what you think of this, because it's kind of a bit of a sidestep. I know that I grew up with the baby boomers, so I'm right in the middle of the baby boomers. And baby boomers, as of 20 years ago, were thinking, well, when 20 years is over, I'm going to be able to retire. So they're thinking, oh, okay, I'll be done with life and I'll get to cruise and stuff. And in reality, a vast majority of baby boomers are just now thinking about what they're going to do with their next 1/3 of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
They're expected to live to 85 or 90. That gives them 20 or 25 years to do another job. They could completely enter another occupation and retire from another occupation in the time that they've got left. And I'm thinking, well, even if they didn't create a job, a money producing thing, They're brilliant people with the experience of their lives of 50, 60 years. I know that they've got something valuable to express.
It's a very interesting situation because it used to be the status quo. It used to be mandatory to retire at 65. We were told it was mandated. You cannot work past 65. So here's the issue with that, is that so for some people, 65 is just the starting point. For 65, some people are mentally 25. For others, they're done.
I believe I never grew up. I figured that out when I was talking to my mom this Mother's Day. But I am 64 right now. So in September, I will be 65. And I just do not feel, I don't know what it means to feel 65.
No. So why in the world in the past, thank goodness that era is over, legally it's over. You don't have to retire at 65 anymore. But guess what? We're still working with that mentality of at age 65, all of something magic is supposed to click in our brains and make us into retired people. Well, it doesn't, on the date of your birthday, you are now either hireable or too old to be hired. So we have some work to do in the job market with that. However, as far as confidence goes, confidence can either be built or destroyed by these massive reinvention times, because that's what we're really talking about there. Whether you're, it's not, I hate to use the word change because change is such a trite word. It's so overused. The only thing in the world that is guaranteed is that it will change. So to talk about change is an interesting topic. I prefer to think of it in terms of reinventions.
I love that term. I love it a lot.
That's why my third book, I can speak very well. My third, I are a public speaker. I speak goodly. Very goodly speaking wise.
So I tell you what, I'm going to interject right here.
Good.
We're going to go into reinvention right after this, but I have to first show a comment from Barbara Quick, because she nails it. I think the basic purpose of my life in life is caring about many things in life, about being positive. And that's so important. And I will have to say that Barbara Quick is one of the most positive people I know. And the reason that I can say this is that I'm very well acquainted with her last few years of history, and what she's been through is nothing short of horrendous. As far as traumatic life experiences, what she's dealt with, what she's had to take care of. And every time she and I connect, she's got a smile on her face. She feels good. And I'm not talking about a dummy sitting there with no feelings. This lady is very deep, very bright. She's a writer. She's great with the English language, but she does those various things, caring for many, many people, many things, and being very positive. She is the exemplary person expressing this.
I can think of no better purpose in all of life. I can't. Barbara, congratulations. That is honestly, what is more important than caring? I don't just mean in your personal life. I mean in your professional life, in your corporate life, in all the lives with all the hats that we wear. What in the world could possibly be more important for your own confidence than caring and being positive? Not only does it do wonders for everyone with whom you come in contact, but understand what it does to yourself. I've gotten goosebumps talking about the effect of caring and positivity. It's such a strong, worthy purpose. Congratulations to you for realizing that's your path and for sticking to it. That's incredible.
Great stuff. We are speaking with Rosemarie Barnes, and her website is Confidence Stages, and we're going to show that to you right now in case you'd like to know. And that way you can make sure that you get that recorded and embedded in your mind to go visit everything she does. She's an author of 2 3/4 books. Is your third book out yet?
Almost.
Okay, so confident public speaking, confident leadership in the 21st century, and confident reinvention at the confidencestages.com website. That's how you get in touch with her. We'll be back with you in about 15, 20 seconds. Time for us to take a deep breath.
Have a sip of water.
Yeah, that's right. Coffee for me.
Yes, I have that. Look, I'm so loaded with liquid. Then the problem is going to be I'll have to pee.
Yeah, that's a contingency there.
Oh, there it is.
So, let's see. I guess I should stop sharing this. Okay. So, Rosemarie, we were about to talk about confident reinvention. Maybe you could just go into it by explaining to people what your concept is. You wrote the book on it.
I did.
So let's turn it over to you.
We reinvent ourselves over and over again. We call it different names, but every time our situation changes, we have a choice to how we're going to show up. As children, we reinvent ourselves almost every day. Today, we're going to practice being the good guy and being on the hero when we play Cowboys and Indians. We're going to play hide and seek, and we're going to develop our skills for observation and whatnot. Children are very good at reinventing themselves. They have no issue with that. But as we get older and we start making judgments, making judgments, not just assessments, but judgments as to our own abilities, we may find ourselves feeling like a fish out of water. For example, women, just to bring that up as an example, when women become mothers and choose to stay home with their children, how fortunate, how absolutely wonderful. Comes the time when the babies leave home and they're gone and they're having their own lives. Now, the dedicated mothers that have spent their lives creating a wholesome, healthy, and worthwhile people now have time for themselves. So is that not a perfect example of time to reinvent? What are we good at? What do we like to do? Where do you think we can add value to the world? What are you qualified for? What can I do about those qualifications? What do I want to do that I've never done before? All of these questions are part of the reinvention process. Sometimes those choices are voluntary. Sometimes they're forced upon us by time and circumstance. For example, if someone has a severe accident and all of a sudden I heard of this woman, oh my goodness, she was hit by a semi-trailer truck barreling down the interstate at full mileage, and she without the benefit of a vehicle around her.
So I was going to ask.
She was on the highway.
Oh my God.
Circumstance, etc. She was saving two other people, trying to get them out of the car so it wouldn't get hit, and she got hit without a car around her.
Oh
she flew through the air. She spent so much time in intensive care. They didn't think she was going to live. So now this woman has a definite different view on life, and she had to reinvent herself because it certainly wasn't the body. She can walk now. Thank goodness. They didn't think she was going to live, and here she is, a public speaker. That was never on her radar. Circumstance dictated that she had to reinvent herself. Now, that's not just change something. That's a total reinvention, all the way down to, what do I value now? What is my purpose now? And those can change over time. We don't do ourselves any favors by saying, no, I'm good where I am. We have to taste. My son-in-law is a brilliant man, and with some idiosyncrasies, as we all have. He's reluctant to try foods that he's never tasted. This is not an uncommon thing. If you've decided you don't like tomatoes, nobody in the world is going to get you to eat tomatoes. Even though our taste buds completely change every 7 years, our mind says we don't like tomatoes, so we're never going to try them again. When I say to him, how do you know that this, I don't know, avocado isn't your next favorite thing? And his reply, I have enough favorite things.
Wow.
So tell me, how close is he ever going to come to experiencing the new, the wild, the interesting? If you become complacent, you are not a candidate for reinvention. But what happens if your favorites and your regular food supplies suddenly somehow are no longer available? Now reinvention is going to be so much more difficult because you've never done it before. Like everything else, reinvention gets better with practice, and your confidence in doing it comes complete with it. If you want to get confident, you have to be willing to take one step backwards now and again and go, well, that didn't work. Let's just try again. But reinvention is not just personal. You can reinvent your whole personality. Yes, you can, because you become aware. And you can change from a negative Nellie into Barbara, the positivity expert, the symbol of caring and positivity. You can change. Everybody can change, but they need a purpose for it.
Agreed.
Reinvention can also be professional. We don't have to stay in the career anymore. In fact, that idea is dying out with the baby boomers and Generation X. In those time, in the heyday of those generations, we went to work in order to make money, go home and enjoy our lives there. Work was never thought that no one thought of work as having to be fulfilling. No one thought of work as being satisfying. That's why there was a special word for work and a special word for play. Work was to work. You punched in your card. You needed all the information that you could gather to do your piece of the puzzle brilliantly. And then you clocked out again and you went home to enjoy your life. No, not today. Our younger generations will have none of that. Thank you very much. Our younger generations were raised going, you're special. You are destined for greatness. You can do anything you decide to do. I'm here to support you. Tell us what you need. We'll supply it for you. So now they go into work and that doesn't happen. So they're shocked. And what happens to their confidence? All their lives, we have loved them so dearly, so tenderly, and we have comforted them and wrapped them in cotton wool and protected them. And now they head into the world of work. And all of a sudden, although all that safety net is gone and their confidence goes down the drain, they have to reinvent themselves to fit into the work world. But guess what? That's not what's going to happen. Mostly because the belief structures and values of the older generations are dying out with the people themselves. And it's always the young version that survives. It's always the new thing that takes over out of sheer attrition.
Right.
So the confidence portion of that is that as long as somewhere along the line we've been allowed to take our lumps a little bit, we've been allowed to fall and scrape our elbow so that we understand the value of elbow pads. We have to be allowed to fail a little bit so that we can dig ourselves out.
I'm wondering about this, and the millennials right now. I get the impression that the millennials will be leading the pack in innovation and the creativity of this era right now, because they are such brilliant people
Exactly.
who have not heard the term no near as much as I did when I was a kid.
That's for sure.
Okay. But what's happening is they've come up to this world where it was supposed to look a certain way, and they're looking at us like, you said this world was going to look like this, and it looks like that. Now this is reality. This was bullshit. And the people they have somewhat of a rebellious attitude, which I can really appreciate because I was a rebel in my own way. And they're doing what they want to do, and they're saying, look, we're going to call it like it is. This is reality. This is how I'm comfortable now. This is the trend of life that we're developing right now that isn't suitable for you maybe, but this is how I'm going to do it. And they're just doing their thing.
Millennials are the transition generation. And anyone who has ever taught anything knows that it's not, once you're involved in the subject, everything works well. But transitioning from one subject to another, transitioning from one career to another, it's always the transitions that are the troublesome bits. Once you're there, it's fine. Millennials, the whole generation, is the transition generation. And they are handling it better than anyone that I could possibly imagine. When the millennials were first born, not everyone had a cell phone. The internet was new. There was a point at which I spent most of my time convincing people that just because it was on the internet didn't make it true.
Oh my God. Oh my God. It's a huge one.
And the millennials were the generation that had to deal with that. Our next generation, Generation Z, otherwise known as the Edgers, if you needed to know that kind of thing. Generation Z, I've said it before and I'll say it again. At least metaphorically speaking, the Generation Z, the ones born in 2000 and later, I'm sure were born with two cords, an umbilical cord to connect them to their parents and an electrical cord to connect them to their devices. For them, there has never been a world without everyone having a cell phone. There has never been a world that there wasn't a computer in the house, and more than that, a computer for every person in the house. There has never been a world where Wikipedia reigns supreme, because it's been shown that anybody can do that. And so they know that. Our youngest generation are the best analysts we have ever seen. They know how to take masses of information and distill it to its pearls. And they decide, can I believe this? Can I not? Is it worthy? Is it not? They are masters at it. The millennials were the ones who had to learn it. Generation X, the ones before the millennials, didn't have that problem. It didn't exist yet. The world was becoming mechanized, and computers were the size of small buildings and needed to be kept at very cold temperatures so they didn't overheat, et cetera, et cetera. So we didn't have to worry so much, the Generation Xers. This was a whole new world that they could choose to participate in or not. Millennials had to transition between those two worlds, and now our Generation Zs, they don't have a choice. This is the world. You can't choose to not be part of it. But it's the millennial generation that had to cover that difficult era. They are brilliant. They're also overly mollycoddled and are very easily shot down. You want to know why? They were never allowed to fail on their own terms.
Wow. Okay, so there's something to be said for the various ages of people from pre-World War II, and on back, of course. But I mean, I can see so many significant changes in our history. That's just fascinating.
That's why in the second book, Bridging the Generation Gaps, the one about leadership in the 21st century, that's why included in that book I have the most major historic events that have happened worldwide that have created people as we are today.
Wow. I'm going to have to read these, I guess.
It's so you can look at it at a glance and say, all right, well, World War II definitely shifted people's confidence. Following when we were in the Cold War, wow, people's confidence took a big hit. Huge. Because now we've got Russian spies looking at us from every corner, and our phones may be tapped, and we've got Area 51, and we've got all of these ghosts and goblins spying on us, and we became fearful. Even though the war was over, we were living in a war of confidence. We couldn't trust the people on the other side of the world. Well, the internet certainly destroyed that little ghosty goblin, because now today's kids are just as concerned about a tsunami in Singapore as they are around the corner from their home. The world has gotten smaller and bigger at the same time, and with it, the caring of it. Our youngest generation are absolutely determined to save this planet. They are going to change the way the world does business.
I agree.
It's already that the old pyramidal style of business, and I don't mean pyramid schemes, but the old head leader sitting on the top of his ivory tower, and the getting wider and wider until all the worker bees are the masses at the bottom. That system of governance, that system of business structure is no longer acceptable.
I'm so glad to hear that.
We're working toward King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table.
About a decade and a half ago, I had a group of people. We were talking about the law of attraction, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And in the midst of this, I said, there's a problem with how we run our lives, and there's a problem of how things are built. And I pulled out copies of Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
There you go.
And I put that in front of everybody. I said, now here it is. And if you work this the way it's designed, you eventually, through your life, end up at the top of the pyramid in a more affluent positioning, and a better, you know more, you've done more, you have more, and now you want to give back to the people. I said, I want to throw your life in a little bit of an uproar. Take the paper and turn it upside down.
Mm-hmm.
And now let's start at the top of the pyramid, which is on the bottom, and let's be benevolent at giving and altruistic now instead of later, and start with that.
It's very interesting that, and of course, completely expected, that businesses do not want to tip that pyramid, nor do they want to create a circle out of it, because it takes more time. Once was the order came from head office, and you went, yes, yes, yes. And all the ants in the colony went scurrying around doing everything they needed to do to fulfill the order of the day. Well, our younger generations will have none of that. Thank you very much. They've been involved in major decision-making from the time they were little and were allowed to pick the color of the family car. They want to know that they've always known that their input is valuable. And now they go into the work world and find out that, no, that's not quite the way it works. And now they don't know what to do. because people listened to me before my whole life. What's going on here? And so the brightest and best of them are treated well, or they walk. We, again, your age, my age, we stayed at a job no matter what came down because we wanted that pension check, we wanted the security, we wanted the benefits and seniority, and we stuck with jobs we didn't really care about, and even if we did, it was forced. Now, that's not to say not everyone did. Some people truly enjoyed their work, but there were a great many that didn't. But we didn't leave because it was a similar situation down the block. Now, you don't treat your employees well. They know that they know more than we do, and so they leave to find someone who will respect them without them having to prove themselves. And therein lies the biggest difference.
Wow. So I wanted to bring this comment out from the audience. Monica Schmidt says, "This is mind-blowing. Thanks, Rosemarie. No longer top down." So she's getting some interesting stuff out of what you're talking about today. And thank you very much, Monica, for your comment there. Appreciate it. And I had one last thing to direct you on, and it's a kind of a parallel sidestep, but it's what I am trying to do with the concept of confidence. Aaron Avila, who is also in the audience right now, or he was at least, he and I are working on this group that's called Stroke TV. And we have second chance stroke survivors, and there are 2,000 of them. And there are people who have had strokes or people related to people who've had strokes, and possibly caregivers and also therapists and people like that. So they're all involved in the environment of recovery from strokes. And so Aaron and I, between the two of us, we have one hand each and half a body, and we're both in wheelchairs. So we together we're pretty formidable. But one of the things that I've taken on as a personal goal and personal focus of what we do is I see this vast group of people, and they are very sensitive. They're diminished as people because of the stroke, and they feel less than. Their confidence is way down. And so now you can see how that fits into what we're saying. And I figure if I can show them how to live stream cheaply and easily without getting into it, and it improves their lives in a couple of ways. They don't have to be show producers.
Right.
But right now, they're not talking to anybody. They're not visiting with friends. They're not seeing people. They may live far away from families, and they're lonely, and they feel bad. So, I mean, I think feeling bad is a choice, but try to teach someone that while they feel bad is kind of like a tough thing, right? So what we're doing is we're doing a show where we are just being cool people, talking to people, encouraging them, asking them what kind of challenges they have, and engaging in conversation. And my hopes is that when they see us, two guys in wheelchairs, playing around with video cameras and microphones, doing recordings, sending videos to their families, engaging with people around the globe for free. I think that some of them, and certainly not all, but some of them will be encouraged to get a camera and a mic and express themselves. What do you think?
I think that's brilliant. The reason being is that the world is a village. You know, that old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, the whole world is a village. And with each other, we are better. With each other. And, you know, the thing about stroke victims, and this is not my area of expertise, so please correct me if I'm wrong, is that stroke victims could very easily feel that they've lost part of themselves.
Confirmed.
Very easily. And if there is a slurred speech or things that might make people think that they are less than, make them feel
less than.
just
Yeah.
less than. The stroke is a horrible thing, but it can also be seen, and I don't want to sound Pollyanna-ish here, but it can also be seen as the start of a new adventure. It can also be seen as a new possibility to do things that you would never have dreamed of, never have had time for, never have given a second thought to because of time and tide and circumstance. But telling someone that who is in the throes of agony and misery and grief for the life that they had wanted, which is now no longer a possibility, or at least they think it's no longer a possibility. I have this to say: if a person who is completely blind, with the help of a Sherpas, and can climb to, base camp on Mount Everest and further, then depending on the severity of the stroke, what a wonderful opportunity to become confident in some other field. And if you can get opinions, input, conversation, assistance, support from around the globe, think of all the windows that you could look through that before you didn't even know existed. What a wonderful opportunity to share what you've learned with the rest of the world.
That is the threshold that we are upon right at this time. And I look at all this happening and I think, wow, I've been studying videotaping and video editing for 45 years now. And all of a sudden, I'm doing that for clients and making money at it. So reinvention is not always total reinvention. You don't have to learn something brand new, but something that I've been trained for since I was almost a kid is becoming very, very today. Is very valuable today. And then the knowledge and understanding that I accumulated all my life is now becoming one of the most valuable things I have in my work day.
And is it not true that things that didn't work well for you in the past were only stepping stones to get you where you are today?
That's completely right. But if I was in the midst of it at the time and you told me that,
you would have thrown a brick at me.
Maybe. But Rosemarie, this is, I love these conversations we have. And if you wanted to do it monthly, I think that I would agree to that with just like with
I would love to. It would be my honor to speak with you.
We'll do this more often at least, and do this again.
Wonderful.
And unfortunately, we're about at the top of we are past the top of the hour, and I'll have to bring the event to a close. But it's been just a wonderful time with you. We've got to do it again.
I agree. Thank you for having me on the show, Roland. I appreciate you and what you're doing. And thank you to the listeners today for coming in to have a look-see at what we're doing here.
Absolutely. And if you have any comments and things that you might say to Rosemarie, or questions for her, comment in the comment stream, and we'll stay on these questions and answers and follow up. But it's been a lot of fun. We're going to have to call it a day. And thank you very much from the Reboot of Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties. This is Rosemarie and Roland signing off.
Bye-bye.
If I could even find my mouse here.
You're still live.
Yeah. Just wanted to show your banner here one more time. Oh, I see what you mean. I guess I had it held in queue there a little bit long. So let's back up a page. Well, obviously, I'm not as good at this without Tim around, but thanks, everybody. Bye from Saturday morning, Marketing Smarties on a Monday. See you now. Bye-bye.